A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to a brand new edition of News First Weekend coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Lanka. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
3 more expressways to be vested with the public before the end of the year. Whose instructions does the media have to follow? Deputy Minister Karu Paranavithana speaks about the demons of the Constitution. Is Ramaraj, who rescued his family from flames in Kandy, visits the News First head office? Isurudeva Priya's presidential candidate. The mutual agreement between the Tamil National Alliance and the government revealed.
And now the stories in detail. At the end of this year, 145 kilometers will be added to the expressway system in Sri Lanka. News First made a special report.
96 kilometers will be added to the southern expressway from Mathura to Hambantota, and it will be open to the public from the month of August. The 30-kilometer long first phase of the expressway from Mathura to Beliatta, which was opened in July 2015, will be declared open in July. The expressway, constructed with the assistance of 3 Chinese companies, consists of 8 entry routes until Hambantota. The construction activities of the exit roundabout in Colombo will be completed by the end of this year. The final phase of the 9.63-kilometer long expressway from Kadawatha to Kerawalapitiya will be open to the public in the month of June this year. The project commenced in the month of January 2016. The Southern Expressway and the Katunayaka Expressway will be bridged following the construction of the Outer Circular Highway. The construction activities of the entry route in Kadawatha of the Central Expressway is scheduled to be completed.
I think the most important phase of this project is the 10-kilometer long expressway between Kadawatha and Kerawalapitiya, which will connect all Central, Southern and Kalutara Expressway. We will be able to open it to the public by the month of June. The benefits is that the traffic will be reduced and we will be able to introduce a new system to let them travel using one ticket.
The second phase of this project from the Mirigama to Kurunegala will be completed in December. 15 local companies are involved in the construction of this, and the estimated cost is 140 billion rupees. Although the second phase of the Central Highway was declared open in the month of November 2016, the progress has not been informed to the public yet.
First stage of planning is to be carried out together with the China Exim Bank. We have already started working by the expense of that company. There were certain delays and the expected efficiency of the project was not delivered.
Meanwhile, we revealed yesterday about the residents of Suryavava, Hambantota, whose houses were damaged due to the construction of the Mathura-Kataragama Expressway.
We promised those people that we will pay the compensation before the 28th of February. This will avoid the other little damages that will be caused to their houses.
Who is the next presidential candidate? Several politicians expressed their political party stances regarding this.
President Maithripala Sirisena will be the presidential candidate that represents the opposition. The UNP, which was asleep for a long time, has awakened due to the events that took place on the 26th of October. The opposition must have one stance. If they do not understand this, the Western world or the UNP will be at an advantage, because the UNP act to the tune of Western countries and the diaspora. The President appointed Mahinda Rajapaksa as the Prime Minister, taking into consideration the opinion of the majority. If our President is capable of being so generous, I believe that the group represented by Mahinda Rajapaksa does not need to think twice to make such a political decision on behalf of the future of our country. Elephants don't get excited. We are ready for an election. However, we do not need to reveal our presidential candidate to them. We will reveal this to the people at the right time. We are ready to give the people what they want. It is because we remained united and thought of our country that they will be compelled to exit from the back door. Sajith Premadasa has tailored his clothes in preparation for the upcoming election. However, there is no use in preparing, as Ranil Wickremesinghe has already prepared his suit for the election. Partly Champika and Karujaya Surya have also prepared 2 suits. By now, the UNP is already equipped with 4 presidential suits along with their tailors for the upcoming election.
UPFA district organisers were appointed for Northwestern, Sabaragamuwa and Western provinces by President Maithripala Sirisena. The event was held at the Presidential Secretariat yesterday.
President has decided to carry out reform activities efficiently and successfully. During a short time, the organisation structure of both districts and electorates should be made quickly, is what the President instructed. President instructed to form a strong organisational structure before 6 months. President Maithripala Sirisena and Mahinda Rajapaksa will discuss and take their decision, but we as a party will continue reorganising the party. In our history, we have contested in an election alone as SLFP only once. We have always joined alliances to face elections, as we will do the same. No, we have not decided to remove organisers yet. Party and the symbol both will be decided by our seniors. We have to let them be and continue our work. We were with the United National Party. We had to take a step back because we were in an alliance with the UNP. 51 of our members left in the beginning. They also told us to get separated from the UNP. That is why people didn't vote for us, because we were in an alliance with the UNP. There are from both sides, from Pudujana Perumuna as well. We don't want to mention their names.
Parliamentarian of the Elam People's Revolutionary Liberation Front, Shivashakti Anandan, says that the current government and the TNA does not have any agreement. However, views expressed by TNA media spokesperson M.A. Sumantaran and Mawe Senadiraja at two different places reveal of such an agreement.
When the 2015 government was formed, there was no condition. When the United Nations Human Rights Council made allegations against Sri Lanka of war crimes and human rights violation, this government saved our country both locally and internationally. We supported the government during the approval of 3 budgets without causing any pressure. During the 50-day political turmoil, 14 MPs of our party supported them without any conditions. Now the TNA is preparing to support the 4th budget.
TNA media spokesperson M.A. Sumantaran says that when the no confidence motion was brought against Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, several discussions between the latter and TNA took place. Sumantaran clarifies that the proposed draft constitution presented in Parliament yesterday and the ministerial portfolio of Northern Development coming under the purview of the Prime Minister was a result of these discussions. They have arrived at an arrangement to work with the Prime Minister.
There is no criticism that we supported the Prime Minister when the no confidence motion was brought against him. However, we discussed a lot of issues during that period. The draft constitution presented in Parliament yesterday was a result of these discussions. We told them that the Northern Development must have been given prominence. That is why the subject came under the purview of the Prime Minister. This was done to facilitate development in the North. We have agreed to certain things. As an initial step to these discussions between TNA MPs and the Prime Minister were held yesterday as well.
Meanwhile, leader of the Lanka Tamil Arasu Katchi, Mawe Senadiraja, says that a mechanism that includes the prior discussions with the TNA prior to a cabinet decision has been formed. He pointed out that a committee has been appointed to discuss matters with the government when making decisions.
If the cabinet is taking a decision, it must be taken after consulting the TNA, and it has been decided to implement this as a mechanism. This mechanism is currently followed. The government must consult us prior to these decisions. A committee has been appointed for this.
As of late, activist groups have been popping up everywhere like wild mushrooms, and they are specially concentrated around the suburbs of Colombo. There are groups that are registered through the government, stem from roots of goodwill and work towards the well-being of the people. Despite all of this, people have to question who really is the face behind some of these activist groups. During the previous political instability, there were many activist groups that were funded by certain people and were previously unheard of that came forward to back Ranil Wickremesinghe. Recently, we saw them again crying for narrow-minded objectives and working according to a political propaganda. Are they really activists who speak out for the voiceless? Or are they mere puppets who dance to the tune of a higher power? Did these so-called activists protest against the bond scam that is considered the biggest and the most corrupt scam in the history of this country? Did they protest when the relatives of these authorities were appointed to high ranks in Sri Lankan Airlines and subsequently it ran a loss of 57 billion rupees during a period of 3 years? Why were these activists silent when the government obtained business loans with high interest rates and costing our country millions and dragging us into further debt when they had the option of opting for loans with reasonable interest rates? Why are these activists blinded to people suffering from unemployment, struggling to bear the economic burden, experiencing hardship due to adverse weather resulted from global warming, distressed from the lack of clean drinking water, enduring hardships because of the lack of opportunities to education, and struggling in life because of poverty? They have failed to understand that majority of Sri Lanka cannot be fooled by their deceiving acts. They attempt to spread fake news and propagate slander through the web pages managed by their associates who are currently residing in cities such as London and paying them off with the money that was stolen from the people of our country. Who wires the money from Sri Lanka to London? The people are well aware of the people who receive this money as well. The people of this country cannot be deceived as easily as you think.
The media should behave according to how they command. We should question them on how to prepare the news favoring the government. This citizen media network should act as they want, the ones who favor the government. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, along with Minister Sumandiran, is about to introduce a constitution which will divide the nation into 9 parts. These media networks should be silenced. Control of these media networks should be given in hand of Wickremesinghe. These people who lean on the government are trying their level best to gain control of the media. I wonder why they came with their faces covered. They are just a group of so-called butterflies. You are not an actor or an actress just for the sake of being screened. Please stop disgracing our valued artists and stop supporting such a worthless cause.
Let's take a look at the views expressed by parliamentarian Vijayadasa Rajapaksa about a primary requirement of the country.
What is the most pressing need for our country? It is not making the constitution. It is how to manage this problem that has risen within the country through the constitution. At present, the country's economy has experienced a sheer drop. The fact that the legislature and the executive, instead of fulfilling their responsibility, are discussing about compiling a new constitution is indeed a joke. The responsibility of compiling a new constitution has been taken over by foreign force, the diaspora, and NGO groups.
We now cross over to Shripal Wanyaraji from the Gamatha program for more information about the constitution.
නව ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවක් සකස් කළ යුතු බවට පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ මන්ත්‍රීවරුන් 225 දෙනාම යොදා ගනිමින්
A constitutional council appointed with all 225 members of the parliament stating that a new constitution should be formed. To make matters easy for the council, a constitutional operational committee was appointed. Ranil Wickremesinghe is the president of that committee. There are 21 members of this constitutional operational committee. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa is one of these 22. Few months after the operational committee was appointed, on the 13th of November 2017, Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, directing a letter to the Speaker, noted that appointing a constitutional council of this nature is against the existing constitution. It further reads that the so-called constitutional council has no legal validity. He also said that it is also not possible to appoint a constitutional operation committee. In his letter, the parliamentarian further said that an unnecessary disorder is created through this and the Speaker should take this responsibility.
අපි සතුව තිබෙනවා අපි සූදානම් රාත්‍රී 8ට මායිමෙන් ඒ තොරතුරු.
The United National Party has been preparing a set of constitutional proposals. What is the moral right of the UNP to formulate a democratic environment in the country with a constitutional proposal?
During the past, when there were doubts about the leadership of the United National Party's, committees were appointed. Accordingly, starting from the Panditharatna Committee, it has now come to the Vijayawardena Committee through the Leadership Council. The only thing that happened through all of these committees and councils is that the party leader suppressed all the accusations levelled against him. As soon as the power was recaptured, Ranil Wickremesinghe has now swept these findings under the carpet. Isn't this the same thing that happened to the Vijayawardena Committee report? How can the constitution be fair and be positive towards the country when the leadership of the party is suppressing the party through a dictatorship? These were the ideas expressed for this proposed constitution. Some individuals say that Ranil Wickremesinghe is trying to divide the country. We challenge them to show us where the so-called division will take place. This is the same old song that has been replayed. Remember that as long as we are in the UMP, we will not allow anyone to divide or take over our country.
The TNA claims that this is the first constitutional draft for the devolution of power in the North and speaks high of this. But I am informing the people of the North that everything this government does is nothing but a lie. If a proper solution was to be given, then Ranil Wickremesinghe should have presented the real proposal in Parliament. Instead, a piece of paper prepared by some committee was presented in Parliament. Ranil Wickremesinghe would refrain from eating if Sumandiran asked him to do so. The government cannot continue without the TNA. Sumandiran requested the draft to be presented in the Parliament on Friday, and Ranil Wickremesinghe did so. It is with much responsibility that I say, if any justice is to happen to the people of the North, it will only take place under the power of Mahinda Rajapaksa. How can they say no when the steering committee of the Constitutional Council unanimously agreed? We can debate over what should be included in the constitution and what should not. However, it is not right to simply make statements such as the country does not need a new constitution, or we do not address the issues of the people of the North or South, or we do not pay attention to the issues relating to the executive presidency. Approving a new constitution at this point is extremely critical because this government is heavily dependent and influenced by the Western countries. How can our country form a new constitution when even a draft cannot be formed? Ranil Wickremesinghe's only target is to remain in power by forming a new constitution or dividing or betraying our country. It is clear that the former president, Madam Kumaratunga, has taken over the contract to divide the country. In the past, when our government was in power, a similar incident was to take place through the Tsunami Relief Committee. We request that she will not be able to achieve what she could not achieve while serving as the president. This story of dividing the country has been repeated for some time now. People have understood that this is a joke, so we request them to find another joke. Such a draft has not been presented in Parliament. They are spreading rumours. Our view is that based on the composition of the Parliament, a new constitution cannot be formed. This is distorted Parliament. Forming a new constitution cannot be done in such a Parliament.
Parliamentarian Sarath Fonseca expressed views about the so-called media freedom that the United National Party government has granted. The parliamentarian made these observations while attending the UNP Balamandala meeting in Yapahua.
There is a buffalo on our side. He keeps saying that I assassinated Lasantha Wickrematunge. I won't say that name, but you know who that person is. This government came and granted media freedom, but the media today has forgotten this. That media is now attacking us.
Although the United National Party boasts about this so-called media freedom that they had granted, their ulterior motives were revealed through the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. Despite the reduction of powers vested in the President through the Constitution, they aimed at hindering media freedom. These attempts were made futile when we prevented it from being implemented through a court order. It was Ranga Kalansurya, a well-known figure from a non-government organization, was appointed as Director General of the Government Information Department, the chief government position for media. When attempts were made to hinder media freedom, not even a single civil organization who came forward to fight against it.
Speaking at a media briefing held in Minuwangoda, the Minuwangoda chief organizer of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Ruwan Ranatunga, says that he is reconsidering his position as an organizer and that here a decision will be taken in the future.
We all should come together for victory, but the SLFP should not work under another party. It should join other parties as a leading party, but I have a doubt about it.
මට ඒ පිළිබඳ සැකයක් තියෙනවා.
පසුගිය දවස්වල විනෝද ප්‍රේමත් සමග සාකච්ඡාවක් වුණා කියලා ලොකු කතාවක් ගියා. ඒක පසුව කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් කියන තැනකට ආවා. බොහොමත් මෙතන හිටියද?
මමත් එතන හිටියා. මම කනගාටු වෙනවා ජනාධිපති.
I was there as well. I am disappointed that the president listened to rumors of these people. We didn't plan a conspiracy. Reginald Kure is not corrupt. We went there and told him to inform the president regarding what is happening to them. But there are few people who had gone from the national list and yet misleading the president. We didn't stay with the president expecting any positions.
හිටියේ ජනාධිපතිතුමත් එක්ක වරප්‍රසාද බලාගෙන තනතුරු බලාගෙන නෙමෙයි.
ඇත්තටම ඔය කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් කියලා මේක කරුණේට ඇවිල්ලා මේ වගේ දෙයක් වුණේ එකපාරට.
අපි කනගාටුවෙන් උනත් කියනවා මේ අවුරුදු 3මාර තුල
We are disappointed because during these 3 years our party did not act according to the vision of our party. I am disappointed and I have been thinking for years whether to leave this party. But my team who was with me wanted to correct our mistakes and move forward. I am planning to meet the president and Dayasiri Jayasekara and take a decision regarding this.
ලබන සතිය දෙක ඇතුළත ජනාධිපතිතුමත් දයාසිරි දයාසේකර මැතිතුමාවත් හම්බෙලා
That footage that shook the entire nation was proof to the depth of the love of a father. On the other hand, it attests to the power of humanity that breaks the borders of race, religion and caste. Ram Raj and his family, the survivors of accident, were warmly welcomed at the Newsfirst head office today.
The Newsfirst team most cordially welcomed S. Ram Raj, his 3 children and his wife into the office premises. They were on the 4th floor when the fire broke out. When these 3 children and his loving wife were about to be engulfed by the fire, he acted to save them. He didn't become a superhero, but he proved himself as a loving father.
பெரியவரை போடுறதுக்கு கூட நான் போடுறதுக்கு முன்னாடி நான் வந்து பேலன்ஸ் பண்ணி பார்த்தேன். அது இப்படி போட இயலுமா, இது சரியா பிடிப்பாங்களா அப்படின்னு நான் மொத்தம் போட்டேன். நான் அதை நம்பி போட்டேன். ஆனால் போட்ட விழுந்ததோடய ஒரு கீழே முதல்ல ஒரு கை ஒன்று தான் வந்தது. அது எனக்கு யாருன்னு தெரியாது. சத்தியமாக அவங்க நான் பார்க்க ரொம்ப ஆசை. என் கடவுள் அவர் தான். அந்த கையை கொடுத்து தூக்கணும். அந்த கடவுளுக்கு நான் முதல்ல தலை வாங்குறேன். உண்மைக்குமே அவர் தான் என் உசுரு. அந்த கை கொடுத்த வேகம் தான் நான் செயல்பாட்டுக்கு இந்த அளவுக்கு நான் வர்றதுக்கு காரணம் அந்த கை தான். அந்த மனிதனுக்கு உண்மைக்குமே அது அவர் என்ன மதம், ஜாதி, முஸ்லீமா, தமிழா, சிங்களமா என்ன அது பார்க்கல. ஆனால் அவர் என் உசுரை முதல்ல காப்பாற்றினாதான் அந்த கை கொடுத்த தைரியம் தான் அந்த அளவுக்கு நான் வந்து நிற்கிறது காரணம்.
The Newsfirst team, together with the Capital Maharaja organization, did not forget to support the future of these 3 children. We are here thanks to the people on the ground who caught us with the bedsheet. I first and foremost worship those gods. It is because of them that we are together with our children and are here today. It is because of the strength they gave us.
The 52nd birthday of Deputy Leader of the United National Party and Minister of Housing and Construction and Cultural Affairs, Sajith Premadasa, was held today.
Born on the 12th of January in 1967, Sajith Premadasa received his primary education at St. Thomas's Preparatory School and Royal College, Colombo. He completed his ordinary level and advanced level education at the Mill Hill School in England and graduated from the London School of Economics with a degree in International Relations and Economics. While attending the University of Maryland in the US for postgraduate studies, he was compelled to return to Sri Lanka due to the unexpected death of his father. He entered politics for the first time in 1994 as a member of the late Gamini Dissanayaka's election campaign. In the year 2000, he was elected to Parliament from the Hambantota district. Subsequently, he was appointed as the Deputy Leader of the United National Party. Sajith Premadasa, who gave life to the Udagammanu concept, once again has already completed and vested in the public 150 model villages. While construction of another 1,110 villages have already commenced, the minister's target is to complete 10,000 model villages by 2025 and provide shelter to all Sri Lankans. People of this country are now anticipating to see Minister Sajith Premadasa take the next step of his political career. Meanwhile, several programs were organized in line with the minister's birthday. One such program was held this morning at the Vijayawardhana Ramaya in Kandewattu, Nugegoda. During the event, school equipment and spectacles were distributed while free medical services were provided. The foundation stone was laid for another housing project in Pusallavatta, Aliyogoda in line of the minister's birthday. This housing project will include 51 houses. The foundation stone was laid for the Sada Minigama Udagamana housing project, which will consist of 25 houses. Meanwhile, foundation stone was also laid to 2 housing projects in Rambava area in Anuradhapura. Accordingly, 50 houses will be constructed in the Rambava Kallanche Gonava and in the Kinikatuave area. The 151st model village constructed in the Lunugambere area in Hambantota under the 77 Yali Pibidanuda Gamana program was vested in the public today under the patronage of Deputy Leader of the UNP, Minister Sajith Premadasa. This village has been named Sri Sobitanahimi village and consists of 20 houses. This project will incur an estimated cost of 21.6 million rupees. Spectacles and medical services were provided for elderly artists in line with the minister's birthday.
We were presenting this newly built village to the people on my birthday instead of receiving gifts on my birthday. I decided to pay gratitude. It is because the most venerable Sobhita Thera that we are secure with the democratic judiciary, an independent police commission, an independent bribery commission and an independent public service commission. A fair society with no political influence is a result of the services and dedication of Venerable Maduluvave Sobhita Thera.
Sri Lanka's public service sector has long been branded as colossal and at times inefficient. However, despite this, the number of employees in the public sector continues to grow every year.
Being a highly developed nation, only 1.6% of the labour force participate in the agricultural sector, contributing 1% to the GDP. A further 18.8% of the labour force in the manufacturing sector contributes to 19.2% of annual GDP, and 79.9% of GDP is contributed from the service sector. Therefore, being a highly developed nation it is, the public sector employs an estimated 15% of all employed people in order to support the economy and the administration of the country. On the other hand, Sri Lanka had a population of 20,950,041 as of 2018 and an approximate annual GDP of 81,322 million. It has a labour force participation rate of 35%, amounting approximately to 10,873,071 people. Of this, 26% work in the agricultural sector, contributing just 8.2% to GDP, an additional 25.7% in the manufacturing industry, contributing 29.6%, and nearly 55.8% of GDP contributed by 62.2% in the service sector. However, Sri Lanka too nearly employs 14% of all working people in the public sector. This amount surpasses 1.1 million employees last year. In Sri Lanka, with a GDP nearly 230 times smaller than the United States, the level of public service of the workforce is comparable to the United States at 14%. However, what is incomparable is the GDP of the United States versus Sri Lanka. A significant explanation of this anomaly would be to examine the amount of public service officials who are granted jobs simply because public service jobs are a favorite giveaway of the Sri Lankan politicians. Why does Sri Lanka, with an economy significantly smaller than the United States and a much smaller population, require so many employees in the public sector?
The partial shutdown of the US government has become the longest on record, with still no end in sight to the political standoff.
Today, it reaches its 22nd day, overtaking the previous record, the 21-day shutdown in 1995 to 1996 under the then President Bill Clinton. President Donald Trump is refusing to approve a budget unless it includes the funds for the wall on the Mexico border. Democrats have rejected his request for a $5.7 billion wall. About a quarter of the federal government is still out of operation until the spending plan is agreed, leaving 800,000 employees unpaid. Yesterday, those workers, including prison guards, airport staff and FBI agents, missed their first salaries of the year. People of Sri Lanka were spared the ignominy of the total shutdown following the political crisis of October of 2018. In the event that the political crisis had continued, Sri Lanka would have faced a similar situation as the United States government is facing now.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Weekend Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.